Choosing the wrong website builder costs you weeks in domain transfers and exports and broken links. So here is the clear way to pick the right one confidently. I have for you a simple 5-point scorecard evaluating Squarespace, Showit, WordPress, and Shopify on the learning curve, the design control, coding, SEO, and site upkeep. And then I'll name the winners by use case. Best for non-techie small businesses, design-first creatives, complex features, and serious e-commerce businesses. Now, if you're a freelance website designer or an aspiring one, I will also cover what actually pays, where the projects finish fastest, where the rates run high, and how to choose with a simple one-page test this very week. We'll also hit on the SEO truth, why the old WordPress has better SEO line is mostly just noise, and what actually matters for ranking on all 4 platforms. And stay to the end for a quick decision-making method. First up, let's do a quick preview of each platform.
The first one is Squarespace. Now, Squarespace really focused when they launched their platform on beautiful design, which was totally different from what was out there at the time. They do an all-in-one platform, meaning you can do not just your website, but like your email marketing, your memberships, e-commerce, etc., all within the one platform, which makes it super easy to use because everything's all in one place. Plus, they just built a website builder, which was intended to be easy to use from the very beginning. So people who tend to use Squarespace include small businesses, creatives, solo entrepreneurs, and bloggers. Now, next up on my list is Showit. So Showit is again known for their beautiful design capabilities and gorgeous templates right out of the box. They also have an upper hand in that they have customizable design down to the ability to move something like a pixel or like a millimeter on the page. So that means that you have complete design freedom when it comes to Showit. The other wonderful thing about Showit is that you have the ability to build a completely custom mobile version of the website. So you have the same editing abilities that you have on desktop as you do on mobile. So you can completely change that thing. Granted, that does mean you kind of build the website twice. You need to build it once on desktop, then you need to build it again on mobile, which definitely takes a fair bit longer. It is literally building the website twice. So while you have the freedom to make a lot of edits to the mobile version, it does take a bit more work when it comes to building websites. A downside of Showit is it's definitely lacking functionality and integrations that other platforms do have. For example, when you blog with Showit, you're actually blogging on a different platform on WordPress. And if you want to sell something through your website, you're going to need to use and integrate Shopify into your website. If you want to have an Instagram feed on your website, there's a plugin that you need for that and an integration you need for that. So quite a few things which other platforms do right out of the box in an all-in-one system is not the case with Showit. People don't tend to code very often on Showit because it's just not super necessary. This is definitely one of those no-code platforms because the design editor is so powerful. Now, the people who tend to use Showit include highly visual creative business owners. Think photographers, designers, creatives, design-focused businesses, female bloggers. Those are the type of people who you find most often gravitating towards and using Showit. Next, we have WordPress. Now, this is the oldest and most established website builder that we're going to be talking about, and therefore it is also the most commonly used platform on the internet. Most websites on the internet are built with WordPress. Now, downside of it being a slightly older platform is that in terms of design and customization, they doesn't have nearly as many options and abilities as some of the more modern, newer website building platforms. So if you use WordPress, expect to be a lot more locked in terms of the design and the layout of your website than with other platforms. Now, the other thing that WordPress is known for is that it has an SEO advantage. Now, we're going to talk about, and I'm going to go through and compare all these platforms on SEO later on in this video, so stay till the end. But this SEO advantage, I would argue, is not a real thing. We're going to go into why later, and I would actually say that there are some SEO disadvantages to WordPress. The fact that it's a bit clunkier to use, mobile design not so hot, website loading speed, depending on your host that you're using or the template that you're using, could be not so great. So while it's typical that people say there's an SEO advantage because you can use this like Yoast plugin and all these SEO plugins, I would also argue there's actually some disadvantages to the platform right now. But again, we're going to get more into detail on that in a later section. The other thing to know about WordPress is that you're probably going to need some coding knowledge in order to use the platform fully and make it do what you want. Either that, or you're going to need to hire a developer. So keep that in mind. It's a little bit harder to maintain yourself or for your clients if they don't know how to code. The other thing to know about WordPress is that they rely a lot on plugins in order to make certain functionality of the website work. So this can be a pro or a con, depending on how you look at it. It's a pro because every single thing which you could possibly want your website to do, there is a plugin, because again, it's such an old platform. there's a plugin that exists to do that thing. Now, this can also be a downside because you need to update those plugins. You don't really know who created those plugins, and therefore if there's security flaws in them, so that can be a bit of an issue with WordPress. And so you definitely have to do a lot of updating your website and maintaining your website on WordPress, which doesn't tend to be the case so much with some of the other platforms that we're talking about. So some of the things which WordPress has as plugins, other platforms just have built into their platforms. So again, while people say the whole like, there's so many plugins, there's so many options, not always a pro in my opinion. Now, the people who tend to use WordPress include small, medium, and large size businesses and corporations. If you're working with bigger customers or you are a bigger business, you have an IT team, this is the platform which is most commonly used in your field. Next up, we have Shopify. So Shopify is built to be an e-commerce website builder. That means digital, you can sell things through a store online. So it has literally every bell and whistle an e-commerce shop could need, things like abandoned cart and taxes and super customized shipping options, a really fantastic checkout experience with something called Shop Pay. It's their own like payments checkout page. They also have their own payment processor, so you don't need to use something like Stripe or PayPal, which is really cool. So truly, Shopify has been built from the beginning to be an e-commerce platform, and therefore they're a fantastic e-commerce platform. Other things to know with Shopify, though, is that in terms of design and layouts and blogging, it's a little bit clunkier to use than some of the other systems that we're talking about, because again, it was built first as an e-commerce platform, not as like beautiful design or is super easy to blog with. And so, as you could expect, the people who tend to use Shopify are people who primarily run an e-commerce website that is then online store website. So next, let's get into the rankings and see how all of these platforms do on our criteria. So in terms of learning curve, I would give Squarespace 5 stars on this one. It is, out of the ones that we're talking about today, the easiest to get up and learn quickly. It is built to be friendly to your average small business owner or blogger to do it themselves. People do hire all the time Squarespace website designers, but very often if people are on a budget, they are able to go ahead and get the basics up with a Squarespace website pretty quickly by themselves in a matter of days or a weekend or a week. Now, Showit, I would give 4 stars in terms of the learning curve. It's a little bit harder to learn, especially because, again, sometimes you need some of these integrations and add-ons in order to make your website do certain things, like add your Instagram feed or doing something like a drop-down navigation, a bit more complicated than on something like Squarespace. So it has every design ability you could possibly dream of, but it also makes it a bit more complicated to learn from the get-go. If, however, you are familiar with the Adobe programs, I do have to say, Showit is going to be a lot easier for you to learn because it is very similar to the Adobe programs, except you're using it to build a website instead of, I don't know, something on Photoshop. So Showit gets 4 stars in my book for the learning curve. Now, moving on to WordPress, I'm going to give it a 2 star. It's really not easy to learn. It is pretty complicated. There's a lot of integrations that need to be happening. There's a million different templates out there and different builders on WordPress and everything. And then moving on to Shopify, I will give Shopify 4 stars in terms of the learning curve. It's not quite as simple as something like Squarespace. It's definitely a heck of a lot easier than something like WordPress. So the learning curve to get started, pretty tough, especially if you don't know how to code and you need to learn how to code in order to do some of the things on your website. That is a lot higher of a barrier to entry than some of the other platforms that we're talking about today. And when it comes to if you're trying to hack what you want on a non-e-commerce platform, it's going to be a lot harder. Whereas because Shopify was built for that specifically, it does make a lot of the things that you're going to need to do in terms of shipping and taxes and checkout experience and all those things. That is a lot easier to do on Shopify than some of the other systems. So again, if you are building the e-commerce website, Shopify is probably the easiest to get started with that one. Next, we're going to talk about design capabilities. So this means how easy is it for me to go onto the website builder and make the design and the layout look the way that I want it to? So I will go ahead and give Squarespace 4 stars in terms of design capability. You can do a lot on Squarespace. There's some things which I say are a bit more hidden and people don't really realize it's an option. This is literally why I created my Square Secrets course, was because there were so many things which I could do on Squarespace, which everyone just thought weren't possible. And I was like, no, here's how you do them. So Squarespace has a lot of design capabilities, a fair bit of which people don't really know about and think that they need to code in order to hack that thing, which most often is not the case. But so I will go ahead and give Squarespace 4 stars in terms of the design capabilities. Now, Showit, as I mentioned before, you can do whatever your little brain desires on that website building platform. Moving a word, half a millimeter to the left, aligning something perfectly, you can do everything on the website building platform. And again, when it comes to mobile design, definitely like way ahead than some of the other platforms that we're talking about today. So design capabilities, Showit is by far, it's taking the cake. It's winning here with 5 stars. WordPress, I'm going to give it another 2 stars. It depends on the system that you're using or the builder that you're using or the template that you're using in WordPress. But overall, I would say that its abilities to change things, to change up your layout, to change up the look of things is a lot more challenging or impossible than with some of the other platforms. And the other thing which I don't love is that sometimes in WordPress, you're building and you can't really see what it looks like until you switch over to the front end of it, which I think is not fantastic. And then Shopify. Shopify, I'm going to give a 3 star. You're a bit more limited when you use Shopify to the layout and the templates and everything. You can make changes to it, but it's definitely a bit more challenging and you don't have the complete design freedom that you get with some of the other platforms. Next up, we're going to talk about if you need coding knowledge to use these different platforms. Because I know for a lot of people that is super important either for yourself, if you are building this website for yourself and do or don't know how to code, and slash or if you're going to be building websites for clients, this is definitely something you want to take into consideration because if they don't know, you might know how to code, but if they don't know how to code, then it's not going to be great if you give them a website, which they do not have a clue how to update or edit themselves. So with Squarespace, you are unlikely to need to know how to code, but you could code something in the platform if you wanted to. The most common thing in Squarespace websites is that people do some CSS code in order to change some of the things which you're a little bit more limited with in terms of design freedom than on some of the other platforms. With Showit, you are very unlikely to need to know how to code, but again, it is possible to do it. Again, coming back to most of these platforms, if you need to know how to code, it comes down to you want to change something about the look or design or layout, but because their website builder is just, and the design capabilities are just so powerful in the first place, you're very unlikely to need to go into the back end and code something. WordPress, yes, pretty much every time on every single website, you're going to need to code something. So do know that if you're going to use this system or if you're going to give it to clients, just know that you and slash or them should probably have your basic coding knowledge down. HTML, CSS, those are definitely the essentials. Maybe also some JavaScript could be helpful if you're going to go and build a website on WordPress. Now with Shopify, I'm going to say yes. It's also very likely that you're going to need to know how to code with Shopify because again, their design editor, not as fantastic as some of the other options. So basic things like changing the layout of something or changing your fonts and what the font looks like, you're going to need to know how to code in order to change some of those just more basic things. And so again, yes, it's pretty likely that you should have some coding knowledge or want to learn how to code if you're going to use Shopify. Next up, we have SEO. Now this is a huge one. This is super important. You want your website to rank in Google if you're going to have a website. So this one is the all important one. Now I'm going to make an argument which is maybe unexpected, but I truly believe the truth in this. So I'm going to rate every one of these platforms equal in terms of SEO. And here's why, and I'm going to show you some backup. So I'm going to link below for you an article which I read by Website Building Expert, which I 1000% agree with. So in the article, it's talking about how there's always been claims out there about like WordPress is better for SEO or Shopify isn't as good for SEO or Wix SEO is awful or those sorts of things. You probably, if you or in the website world at all, you've probably heard some rumors like this in the past. But no one has actually ever proved one of these claims. Because if you did want to prove one of those claims, you would have to build the exact same website with the exact same content on 2 different platforms and then compare how they do. But the problem is, it's kind of an issue because if you have 2 websites with the exact same content, that's automatically a problem in Google's eyes. And then if you were to do it slightly differently, then it's kind of an issue because you're not actually properly equally giving them equal chance if you're creating different content on the 2 of them. Also, you can't really influence so much like how many links back a website gets. That's something that's kind of outside your control as the website builder. So there's never been an actual test done because doing a test is kind of impossible. I would say that all of those rumors that you've heard out there about this one's better for SEO or that one's better for SEO, I would take them all with a grain of salt and probably just throw them right out the window because truly a test has never been done. If someone would like to show that to me, I'm down. But literally in all my years on the internet, I've yet to see someone actually properly do that test. People have said things like, oh, well, most websites that rank are on WordPress, but they're kind of forgetting about the fact that most websites on the internet are also with WordPress. So again, not really valid. So let's talk about the factors that go into your SEO that are most important for SEO. It is links back to your website, the content on your website, And I would say like the site settings / quality of the website. So that's things like how quickly your website loads, does your website work on mobile, those types of things, which literally all what modern website builders that we're talking about today, all of these website builders do this. So I don't really see how one could be so much better than the other. The one thing which I will say, which would maybe knock WordPress down a notch, in my opinion, is that the thing is so hard to update and keep up with whatever the best practices of the internet are, like having your website be secure and having it work on mobile and all those things, is that it might actually be a little bit harder to keep up with the times because you have to do that as opposed to the website building platform like Shopify, Squarespace, Showit. Those platforms, they take care of all that stuff for you. WordPress, you own and manage the entire thing, which means it's on you to do that. So depending on how much you enjoy / like spending your time doing that, could either give it a slight advantage or disadvantage, in my opinion.
Now, if you're watching this and thinking, wonder if I could be a web designer too, then that is exactly why I created the Dream Client Booking Blueprint. It is a 5-day guided challenge designed to help you land your first dream web design client without all of the overwhelm. Whether you are just starting out or pivoting into website design, this challenge provides daily bite-sized tasks to help you build your confidence and, most importantly, your client base. You're going to define your ideal client, price your services with clarity, craft a really compelling portfolio, even if you don't have any clients to speak of right now, and learn how to craft a winning pitch. So if you're ready to turn your design passion into a paid profession, then check out the blueprint. It is exceptionally affordable, meaning you can test out a potential design career for less than the price of dinner. Click the link in the description below to secure your copy of the Dream Client Booking Blueprint.
Now let's talk about upkeep of these websites for your clients if you're going to be a website designer building websites for clients and then hoping to pass it off to them to take care of it in the long run. So with Squarespace, I would give it absolutely hands down 5 stars. This is, in my opinion, the best platform that you want to use if you don't want to have ongoing work with your clients. Now, I know some people, they love retainer work. Other people, myself included, not such a big fan of retainer work. That means, i.e., keeping clients on retainer, which means they pay you a set amount of money every single month for you to go in and update, edit, and do things on their website. Now, Showit, I will give a 3 stars on this one. It's a little bit more complicated to keep up to date. Again, keep in mind, there's a lot of more integrations that are being used on Showit. So when I go on to Showit websites, oftentimes there's a lot more stuff just like not exactly correct. Now, I didn't actually love taking on retainer clients. I will explain in a video, just I'll link it above here, about why exactly I wasn't a huge fan of doing that. So you can kind of make your own, take that into consideration and make your own opinion on it. But just know if your goal is to hand off the website to your client and have them be able to do the updates, add new pages, change things on their website, Squarespace is getting a 5 stars in my book. Because again, there's so much design freedoms. People sometimes get taken overboard with it, I think. And so bits and pieces tend to be not quite displaying correctly, or again, because there's so many integrations happening. If something breaks in that integration, your e-commerce website through Shopify on your show website, there's a bit more room for error and challenge to upkeep the website. WordPress, I'm also going to give it 3 stars for pretty much the exact same reasons as Showit. A lot more integrations and therefore a lot more hassle in terms of upkeeping the thing. And again, the thing which maybe would even make WordPress 2 stars is that all of those keeping your website up to date with the changes that are happening on the internet, the platform isn't doing it for you, you're doing it or your client is doing it. So in terms of keeping that up to date, bit challenging with WordPress and therefore a bit challenging for your clients to keep up to date with. And maybe that will come back to you to end up doing those updates. Shopify, I'm also going to give it 3 stars. It's a fantastic platform. It's the best there is for e-commerce. Like I just let something, the big reveal come. But again, a bit harder for people to manage who are not so familiar with the system because it's not the most intuitive, easy to use thing in the world. So handing it over to clients, it can be a bit challenging for them to keep it up themselves. Okay, so now you know all of that. The question still remains, who is the winner? Which one is actually worth devoting your precious time to learning and building your website on or your websites for your clients on? Which one can you happily stay with long-term, eliminating the need to go through the pain of moving down the line or learning another platform down the line? In my opinion, the clear winner, hands down the best website builder out there that you should learn right now is, I'm going to be nice and give them all an award for what each of them are best at, as opposed to just picking one winner. So which to choose? Squarespace gets my number 1 for the I am not a tech person and/or I don't want to spend a ton of time working on my website. small business owner. So if you or your clients fall into the I feel like a technophobe person and I don't really want to spend a ton of my time working on my website, I just want to go run my business and just have this thing working and not have any hassle, then this is truly the best option for you. Showit, however, is number one for the design first creative business owner with a little bit of patience and time. This platform, again, anything you want to do in terms of design, you can do it. It is fantastic with that, but it definitely takes a bit more upkeep and a bit more patience when it comes to and time when it comes to building the thing. Because again, you have so much freedom, it takes a bit more effort to go ahead and align every single bit and piece on the website and on the mobile version that you want. WordPress is number one for familiarity. It has been tried and tested and around for a long freaking time, and it is fantastic for larger businesses with really complex website needs. No matter what it is, if you have seen something on the internet that you want to happen on your website, there is probably a plugin or some sort of option inside of WordPress that will allow you to do that. So if you want to have a forum or you want to have a really complex booking system for flights or trains or trips or whatever, there is something or a plugin inside of WordPress that will allow you to do that. So if you have definitely more complicated than the average website needs, WordPress is a great system for you. The other thing that I will say about WordPress, especially if you're going to build websites for clients, is that people in foreign countries tend to be a lot more trusting of WordPress. So I find people in the US, Canada, UK, Australia, they're a lot more on it with these new tech trends and website building trends. When I was living in Germany, they were a lot more suspicious of these new modern website builders, and they just wanted to go with the tried and tested and faithful WordPress because they knew it and had been around for a long time. So if you're looking to serve clients in other countries, I would say that WordPress might be a little bit more well-known and preferred in those places. The one last thing I just want to say on WordPress websites is it is useful if it's either your business that you have an IT team on hand or an IT person on hand, or definitely someone who knows how to code on hand, and for sure, have a developer on hand on call at all times who can do that thing. I would say if your business is to the point where you have a full-time IT person or you have a full-time IT team, perfect. You can absolutely use WordPress because you have the people to maintain and update the thing without it becoming your problem. And then Shopify, I kind of let the cat out of the bag earlier. Hands down, number one for e-commerce websites. The number of features and functionality that Shopify has when it comes to e-commerce is just blows everything else out of the water. So if the primary purpose of your website is a shop, Shopify is the way to go. If you just have 1 or 2 or 10 items for sale, you could definitely go with one of the other platforms. But if the primary purpose of your website is to be a shop, then I think that Shopify is your best bet. Now, let's also talk about which one of these platforms you should choose if you want to be a website designer or a freelancer. A factor to take into consideration in this choice for yourself is how much you'll be paid per website on these different platforms. So the thing that you need to know is that on Squarespace, you are likely to get paid less per website than you will on the 3 other platforms. However, that is not automatically a bad thing. The time that it takes you to build a Squarespace website is significantly less than it will take you on these other platforms. So per hour, or by how much work you're doing in the project, you could actually be making more if you're building websites on something like Squarespace than the other options. The other website builders, Shopify, Showit, WordPress, those ones, they tend to command higher price points. If you look at literally the same website building agency or website designer and they do on the different platforms, you'll typically notice that they will charge more for something like WordPress or Shopify or Showit than they will for Squarespace. And the reason is because it takes them more time, it takes more effort, and it's a lot harder for them to do. And so again, keep in mind, while you might get paid more for some platforms and less for others, it is highly related to how much time you're going to spend on it. So that's worth taking into consideration. The next thing which I would base my decision on is which one you enjoy using the most. I did a ton of different website building platforms when I first started to try to figure out, is when I was back creating a blog for the first time, which one I just felt easiest to use. So I literally went and did the free trial on a bunch of different platforms and then just tried to build the homepage of what I wanted on these different platforms. And I realized quickly, I really like working on this. This thing is a nightmare. I don't understand that. So it really helped me figure out which one I should be using based off which one I just found the easiest to use. So I would recommend you do the same. If you're still unsure at the end of this video, go and use the free trials on these different platforms, do a little test drive, try to build one page on the websites, and see which ones you're most easily able to create what you want on. And the final factor to take into consideration with this choice is which of these platforms is your ideal client most likely to want. Again, we went through which types of people tend to use the different platforms, and so I would really take that into consideration when you're determining like, okay, I want to work with lawyers, or I want to work with travel agencies, or I want to work with whatever. Whoever your ideal client is, determine which of these platforms most aligns with them. And that is also a really good way to determine which one's right for you. But let me give you one pro tip before you make your full decision, and that is don't try to learn them all at once. It's kind of like when you say you want to learn a language, and so you go and try to learn German and French and Spanish all at the same time. They are different enough that trying to learn multiple at once will just leave you more confused and lost than before. So I definitely recommend just go with one to learn at the beginning. Do not try to learn them all at the same time. Now, if Squarespace came out as the clear winner in your mind and that is your choice, then do know that I have a 25-minute Squarespace beginner's tutorial video, which will be the perfect place for you to get started with learning the platform. I'll link that video for you in the description below, and I hope you enjoy watching it right after this one.